Together, we have been creating a town that the residents and the taxpayers deserve.
I'm sure we're not the only municipality or only agency that needs to leverage or use civil service process and follow those guidelines.
Hi there, it's WAMC News Director Ian Pickus. And on this episode of the WAMC News Podcast, we speak with the mayor of Plattsburgh and the supervisor of the town of Plattsburgh. Well, in recent days, Plattsburgh Town Supervisor Michael Cashman announced a bid for a third term. The Democrat recently sat down with our North Country Bureau Chief Pat Bradley. Here's Pat.
In his announcement, Democrat Michael Cashman said exciting things continue to happen in the town and region, but challenges cannot be ignored.
I will continue to work tirelessly to serve you and all the residents of the town of Plattsburgh. My work is driven by and inspired by the people I serve, you. The work continues.
First and foremost, it's been an honor and a privilege to represent the residents of the town of Plattsburgh. And together, we have been creating a town that the residents and the taxpayers deserve, a great place to live and work and play and invest. But there are a number of projects that I want to see to the finish line. Included on that list is the Battlefield Memorial Gateway project, which honors our veterans and is a public-private partnership with the American Legion Group. Our water capital plan, which is a $24 million water infrastructure plan that we've been very laser focused on. And I want to continue to keep the town of Plattsburgh in a strong financial position. We have remained under the New York State tax cap every year that I've been in office. And there are still some turbulent times ahead, and I'm confident that I and the team here can continue to keep the town of Plattsburgh in strong fiscal position.
You have focused, as you mentioned, on water, fiscal, and veterans. Why do they capture your attention so much?
Sure. This area has one of the largest veteran populations of anywhere in New York State, and I would even say in large parts of the United States. It's important to continue to honor those individuals that have given up so much for us. And as it relates to water infrastructure, we continue to be both in a strong economic position because new business and businesses reinvest where there is infrastructure. We've been telling people that it's about health and safety, sustainability, and economic development. We continue to punch well above our weight in the region. We have a very strong bond rating. But we also continue to see significant investment and reinvestment, just as I had acknowledged during my annual State of the Town. For example, Schluter Systems is looking to build a 450,000 square foot addition to their facility. But there are many other businesses locally here that are continuing to reinvest as well.
What is it about the town, or is it the town leadership, that is bringing the manufacturers and the industry to the town? And if you get a third term, what can you continue to do or enhance that whatever it is that is bringing them to the town?
Sure. So I personally have adopted a model of listen, learn, and lead. It's critical that I continue to listen to my constituents, and that includes, the business community, what their needs are, to have a productive township where people can do business, learn about the variety of things that intersect with one another, and then lead on people's behalf. I'm a firm believer in collaboration, and, I will continue to collaborate with anyone and everyone to continue to drive the town of Plattsburgh forward, but also to see the greater Plattsburgh region move forward. Some of our great partners over the years have been the Chamber of Commerce, the Development Corporation, and so many others, and I look forward to continuing to stay at the table, rolling up our sleeves and working together. It's not about egos and it's not about individuals. It's about seeing good things move forward on everyone's behalf.
Obviously, accomplishments you have mentioned. What about challenges? What have you seen in the past? How have they changed? And do you foresee some in the future that you want to remain in office to deal with?
Sure. Well, I think everybody knows that we continue to face financial challenges, workforce challenges, like many other sectors. The biggest challenge that was that town faced, we managed very well, was the closing of the Canadian border. We reduced our budget by 20% when the border closed, and were able to facilitate all the services and still punch well above our weight. So we do so in the spirit of creativity, innovation, resiliency, and we will continue to approach that the same way. We also need to continue to leverage public-private partnerships to provide the best services and resources to our community. So while there are some turbulent waters still ahead, I'm confident that the team here at the town, which I'm very fortunate to lead, will continue to see straight and aggressively carve our path forward for our needs today, but securing our future.
What do you anticipate for the campaign moving forward? Do you anticipate being challenged? You've had both types of campaigns, both challenged and unchallenged. What are you anticipating this year?
I'm not worrying about other individuals and what their campaign may look like. In every campaign, both challenged and unchallenged, I have gone out and knocked on thousands of doors, and I will continue to do so, even though this will be my last term as town supervisor. We don't have term limits here in the town, but I believe in term limits, and I will continue to engage the constituencies that I am so humble and privileged to serve. So I will get out there and continue to listen, learn, and lead on people's behalf. That's my approach.
Michael, you say that if reelected, the third term would be your last. Why do you believe in term limits, self-term limits?
I believe self-term limits allows for new thoughts and things to come forward within the wide spectrum of needs of a community. I think it also beats back any complacency that may occur, and this goes for a wider view on government and such. So again, I'm looking forward to buttoning up a number of projects that were laid out there. That's why I said right from the beginning, this is my position, and looking forward to just getting the job done. As I've been telling people, the work continues.
No Republicans have announced a campaign for the Plattsburgh Town Supervisor's office so far.
Meantime, it's a busy stretch for the mayor of the city of Plattsburgh, first-term Democrat Chris Rosenquest. Once again, here's Pat's conversation with the mayor.
During the recent legislative forum, you had asked the region's representatives some questions about needing a new funding mechanism for the water and sewer infrastructure money in the state budget. And you mentioned something called CHIPS, which is Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, and said the funding mechanism should be something like that. Assemblyman D. Billy Jones says he's got a bill. Why is it important to change to that sort of a funding mechanism for water and sewer?
Yeah. So for folks who aren't all familiar with how CHIPS works, and CHIPS is for our road resurfacing, restructuring. That is money that's allocated to the city of Plattsburgh based on the number of roads that we have. It's an automatic allocation to the city. It is not a grant program. It's not a program that we have to apply for. It's a program that is based on our road length and gives us a percentage of those monies to the city of Plattsburgh to make those road improvements. That money is used for anywhere between surfacing, resurfacing, repaving, full depth reconstruction. A portion of that money is being used towards Margaret Street. A portion of that money is used every single year to pave and repair roadways. And again, it's not something that we have to compete for. Where the city of Plattsburgh, we source treat our water. We distribute our water. We collect wastewater, storm sewer, and sanitary sewer water from city residents, all of the town. And then we treat septic pump outs as well as Casella products, leachate, and things that come out of the landfill. The problem that we currently have now is any type of infrastructure improvements that we do to water and sewer that is either paid for by the ratepayer through an impact demand charge or infrastructure improvement charge, or we borrow money in terms of debt service, bonding, and we pay annual debt service on making those types of improvements. We have been asking for years now, and I appreciate Assemblyman Jones' introduction of a bill again. This is not the first bill to address this issue. Last year, I met with Senator Jeremy Cooney out of the Buffalo region, I believe. He had a bill in the Senate addressing the same thing. So it's one of those things where we cannot keep competing for these funds, especially when we talk about the health and safety aspects of water and sewer infrastructure, but then also the economic impacts of not having updated water sewer infrastructure. And our job has been to not only address the immediate needs, but also the future needs of the region when it comes to improving water sewer infrastructure. And not being able to have money to do those plans and to execute those improvements has been challenging, especially when we have to go back and look at borrowing money to make those improvements. We've asked the state, look, just take a look at the total mileage of water sewer infrastructure monies that we have, come up with a fair formula for replacing a section of that every year, and let us use that money efficiently. Make us, stop making us compete. Stop making us jockey for water sewer infrastructure funds, especially because it's really needed in the city. We're talking about replacing 1902 infrastructure, 1903 infrastructure in the heart of our downtown right now. And that's going to cost. That's going to cost us. And some of that money is being used from CHIPS to replace some of this infrastructure. Some of it's used from water sewer to replace this infrastructure. But again, when we have to borrow money just to replace some of these critical infrastructures that service 30, 40,000 people regionally, we need some help.
You've hinted a couple times now about the Margaret Street project. That's a project to basically completely rip up and repave Margaret Street in the downtown center, but also replace the old water and sewer infrastructure, which you just mentioned is over 100 years old.
The whole goal of this project, as I said in the beginning, was and is to replace that 1903 infrastructure. It needs to be replaced, especially that infrastructure that services hundreds of businesses downtown, thousands of downtown residents. And we just simply cannot afford an emergency fix for that neighborhood and for that critical business district. It's critical to get this project started now because it is going to be a 2-year project. That's the estimate. To do the infrastructure, the water sewer infrastructure replacement, and then come back and do the hard surfaces like the street and sidewalks.
Actual physical work is not going to start for a while.
Yeah, so the actual physical work probably won't start for another 3-4 weeks. Materials do need to be procured. There'll be people out there doing surveys and marking the street to make sure that we're digging up the right spots, replacing the right infrastructure. And then also the advisory committee that has been connected to this project remains connected to this project. So there's a number of communication mechanisms to ensure that when construction does happen, people are well informed, prepared. They know who to contact if they have problems. And our goal is to address those problems immediately, and as well as to keep people up to speed on project progress.
Mayor Rosenquest, one of the other items that you have said is a priority for the city this year and probably into the future is housing. And one thing you want to look at to advance housing in the city is rewriting the zoning code, because you've said it is archaic, out of date, it's preventing developers from coming in to do things. What needs to be changed in the zoning code that would accomplish that?
Yeah. A number of things such as parking minimums, as we've seen with other neighborhoods. When you go to build a 10, 20 unit building on a piece of property within the city of Plattsburgh, associated to the square footage and the number of bedrooms is also a required number of parking spots as well. That as we've seen historically is based solely on a car focused culture. What we're seeing nationally is a divergent from that approach, where people are better leveraging either public transit or walking or biking or some type of other mode of transportation to their destination, and they're not always using the car. And so that's one issue that we're starting to see with this zoning code change that would help facilitate development. A number of other concerns, such as limitations of housing density on a parcel, as well. That's something that we've seen nationally be eliminated in terms of eliminating single-family zoning or single-family development altogether. I don't know if that's something the city is going to entertain, but this will be a question answered in the process. Form-based zones as well, or form-based code. Where you can open a business in what might look like a house in the neighborhood, as long as that development adheres to all of the building codes and health codes. The whole idea is to maintain the look and feel of a neighborhood and not have to build a brand new building for like a storefront. Something that we've seen nationally again that is used quite successfully. The code change is based primarily on the work done in the revising of the comprehensive master plan. That was spent, we spent the last maybe 2.5 years completing that work. And again, that identifies the need for what's called a 15-minute neighborhood, where you can access the majority of the services and the entertainment that you want to access within 15 minutes, or a 15-minute walk within your neighborhood. So yeah, the whole understanding right now is to really take a look at a more comprehensive update of the zoning code, one that will bring the city of Plattsburgh up to speed, and then we'll also frame development in the city for the next 3 decades.
Is any change in the zoning code that you're looking at, would it need to go through the county? Because when the DRI was going through, there were things that ended up having to go through the county, and residents were like, why? What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will, and that's the process here. Anytime we do major zoning code changes like this, it does need to go through a county planning board for board approval. There'll be a significant seeker process in this. There's going to be a significant amounts of public engagement as well. This is a public engagement exercise to get feedback on those kinds of changes, and then it will eventually make it to council for approval.
Mayor Rosenquest, last week, obviously, there was a bit of news out of your office and the police department with the anonymous letter and its complaint. Can you provide our listeners with the latest on that?
Yeah. March 8th, my office and the Common Council received an anonymous letter making claims that racist comments were made by Provisional Chief York to an African-American officer in the department. My first response to that was to send the email to our corporation counsel and labor attorney with a request to meet immediately following. In the next day, we received the email at like 8:50, and I forwarded that message on to our attorneys at like 9:15 or something like this. So next day, we get in a room, have this discussion, and figure out what needs to happen. I believe the next day was also a council meeting, so we ended up calling an emergency meeting of the Public Safety Committee, having a conversation with the committee on next steps and potential next steps, which followed through with interviews with those 2 officers named explicitly in the anonymous message. Based on those interviews, it was denied that any racist comment was made either by Chief York or any racist comment received from Chief York to the African-American officer that serves in the Plattsburgh City Police Department. And then from there, a message was sent to the anonymous email outlining the city's robust whistleblower policy. The city does have a very robust policy to protect people who feel some inappropriate behavior or something not quite appropriate is happening in the city. They have the mechanism to report that without fear of retribution or penalty. And so we've unfortunately have not heard back from anybody who may be monitoring that email address. And so at this point, we've made reference and referred this to the AG's office for consideration, as well as New York State Police for any criminal concerns that we may have with making the claims, as well as any activities in the department itself that could be cause for criminal activity. Because there were some more broader concerns shared in terms of quote unquote leadership in the department without naming anybody explicit. We still do want to get down to the bottom of that. If that is valid, we want to know if there is racism in the department or leadership making racist comments. We want to know that. We want to know if the email was sent to cause this kind of disruption. We just don't know, and that's the challenge, that we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we're talking to the right people. And so at this point, we're going to continue the process of investigation, and once we come to the determination on what's next, then we'll do the right thing.
One of the statements that was sent out after the emergency meeting of the Public Safety Committee said that the complaint itself, the anonymous complaint itself, may have created a hostile workplace within the police department. What led you to believe that?
So part of these interviews, and again, I'm not participating in these interviews, but what came out of the interviews with those officers named, it was clear to them that they had not been participant in any racist comments or receiving of racist comments. So they too were kind of questioning, like, well, why would somebody say this? Is this intended to be? Is this intended to create this type of environment? Is this intended to create a negative work environment or hostile work environment for me as an employee, or for Chief York, or for the officer? Who knows? And so that's the question that we have: was the email sent with that intention, or was there just a misunderstanding? Right? Anybody can overhear a conversation halfway down the hall and say, "Oh, that was not the right thing to say," or they could have misunderstood something. So, again, we want to remain open-minded about this. We're not jumping to conclusions on anything. We do want to make sure that the person who sent the anonymous email can come forward and say, "Hey, look, this is what I heard," and we get to the bottom of that. So.
Well, you're getting all the questions about it, but the city itself is not conducting the investigation. Is that a bit frustrating?
I mean, like, part of it is, part of it is that the city does navigate parts of the investigation, so we know where it's at, or any stage of where it's at, and so we want to make sure that any information that we can share, we do. And so, of course, my office is going to get a lot of questions on where things are at with an investigation like this. And so, it's not so frustrating. What is frustrating is that the department itself has been doing very well over the last year. Provisional chief has been in there for a little over a year now. He came in to do exactly what we asked him to do, which was organize this department, provide a level of senior leadership that it did not have and has not had for quite some time. And that is exactly what he's been doing. He's well liked in the department. He's revered. He's respected in the department. And he definitely has brought a level of leadership that this department hasn't had in a while. So, that being said, we still want to make sure that if things aren't being done accurately or there are inappropriate instances in the department, then we address those the best way that we can.
When you mentioned Chief York, I remember when well, prior to his being hired as the provisional police chief and your attempt to appoint a full police chief, you had problems with civil service. And one of the things that you've mentioned, I want to say repeatedly, is the need to revamp civil service, saying it's archaic, outdated. How is it affecting the city's ability to hire in the various departments that are civil service dominated?
It's a frustrating process. Not only do the rules just not make sense, but when you talk about trying to hire a expert in a very nuanced field and the number of impediments to be able to do that, no wonder why we have problems keeping people, or no wonder why we have problems identifying good talent. A municipality like the city of Plattsburgh, we are not immune to workforce competition. People have options. People have good options. And so for us to say, okay, we want to hire a high-level executive who has 20 years of experience doing police work, and these people start to apply for the job, and we say, okay, well, who has applied for this job? And they say, well, we can't tell you. We can't tell you who's applied for this job. We're like, hold on, wait, this is the person that I'm going to hire. So you're telling me I can't be told who's applying for this job? No, you can't. Okay, well, thanks for not really being helpful. And then on top of that, if you're placed in a position provisionally, even though you're qualified for the position, the time that you spend in that position doesn't count towards your promotion the next time. And that's, again, some people can spend years in a job provisionally, and not have that time spent towards the promotion into the next position. So again, we look at issues like that, high level issues that we've run into a number of times in the city, and I'm sure we're not the only municipality or only agency that needs to leverage or use civil service process, and follow those guidelines that are as frustrated, if not more. But again, we have to follow these rules, and it's frustrating. And no matter what, everybody knows it's frustrating. Everybody knows these rules are old, but there's also this either hesitancy or this inability to change them for no real good reason.
Well, you've been appointed to the executive committee of the New York State Conference of Mayors and Municipal Officials. Will that help, perhaps, make changes in some of the issues that Plattsburgh would like to see changes made?
In civil service?
Not only civil service, but
Sure.
in other areas too.
Yeah, no, I think when the day comes when I get a call from the governor's office that she's going to appoint me to the commissioner of civil service, then that'll be a great day in my life, because I can finally go to bed at night. But no, my appointment to the executive committee of NYCOM, New York Conference of Mayors, is a great honor, of course. And yes, it certainly is an ability for the city of Plattsburgh to be represented at a level, at a state level, which we probably have not seen in quite some time. So leveraging that relationship and leveraging that position is critical for the growth of the city of Plattsburgh. And we will see some issues that not only impact our community, but throughout the state, be addressed in that capacity as I serve at NYCOM. And issues again like chip style funding for water sewer, those types of things are things that we continue to advocate and lobby our legislative partners for.
And before we finish, the Crate Memorial Civic Center, they had passed resolutions a while ago that would move things forward to get it deconstructed, demolished.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. What's the status?
Council approved demolition contract and funding last year. We initially assumed, based on past studies, that the demolition cost was going to be roughly $900,000 to $1 million to demo the facility. The bids came back. The lowest bid was $350 or something like this, $380. So we are looking at funding this through federal dollars that were given to the city of Plattsburgh through the ARPA funds. So we're not spending general fund monies. This is strictly a funded outside agency funding this demolition. The contractor is currently on site. they are doing some asbestos abatement. There was not, based on the surveys, the asbestos surveys that we did, there's very little asbestos in that building, only located in some glue around the HVAC systems on the roof. And so they're out there doing that abatement now with a planned demolition time of anywhere between end of March to end of April. So by the time the beach opens up this year, we will see a blank slate on the beach, and the Crate Civic Center will no longer be there.
And we won't get to see any sort of dramatic explosion or anything?
No, we will not see any dramatic explosions. Sorry.
Okay, that does it for this Plattsburgh-centered episode of the WAMC News Podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks to Pat Bradley for the interviews. Until next time, I'm Ian Pickus.